So, Yaza, it means night sitting or extracurricular sitting, and it's a tradition. At a lot of retreats, I give a whole talk about strategies for doing it and why people do it, so maybe I can give you the executive summary. At night, there's an alternation of brain chemistry that occurs, and that can sort of give you an interesting perspective from which to do the practice. Different themes tend to come up. For one thing, each wave of sleepiness induces a wave of rest. That's why people lurch, because actually what's happening is there's physical relaxation. So you can get into a rhythm where if you happen to be sleepy, you won't necessarily be sleepy, but you may be at some point sleepy. What happens is that you notice how the sleepiness comes in waves. And each wave will tend to cause the body to physically relax. And it could also cause see rest and hear rest. It could turn off the mental talk, and it could cause either bright light or darkness, sort of a undifferentiated visual experience. So at least feel rest, and perhaps also see rest and hear rest, get triggered rhythmically by rhythmic waves of sleepiness. Now, if you can sort of get into that rhythm, then what happens is you're re-engineering the experience of sleepiness into the experience of meditative absorption. Because there's something, if you've read sort of the Abhidharma or Buddhist scholasticism, there's something called the Bhavanga Sota. Bhava Anga Sota. So Bhava means existence, Anga means support or underpinning, and Sota means stream. So what is the Bhavanga Sota? Well, that's the boundary zone between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. Now, in meditative absorption and in falling asleep and in dying, in those three circumstances, we dip below the Bhavanga Sota. So there's an intimate link between those three things. And the ability to drop below the Bhavanga Sota and not lose consciousness is a big deal. In fact, to live and function below the Bhavanga Sota is to solve the koan that I'm going to give you, actually. I just gave away the answer. Living like ordinary life below the stream of existence would mean that you're alive in the unborn. You're functioning from the unborn. So all-night sitting is an opportunity to explore dipping below that boundary zone. Now, if you dip unconsciously, then you're going to have the Zen lurch, okay? But if you get into the rhythm that I'm describing, it will just take you deeper and deeper. Let's see if I can remember. Ani yashana velebi ir. That's how you say it in Hebrew. I learned that last time in Israel. Ani, I, yeshana, sleep, velebi, and, or but, my heart, my consciousness, ir, is awake. I sleep, but my heart waketh. It's from the Psalms. The Latin is ego dormio sed cor meum vigilat. And that was used as an ideal by the Christian monks in the Middle Ages, when Latin was the language that was used. The canonical hours that the monks keep, which we still have remnants in our language in words like matinee and noon, okay? No, it's known as the 9th hour, etc., etc. Matins is the afternoon, maybe the morning, lauds. I can't remember. There's a certain set number of hours that the monks kept, and very few orders still do this, but a few do. And essentially, it's like a radical disruption of the sleeping cycle, because they never get more than a few hours sleep, and then they have to go to the chapel and either do chanting or singing, or have a liturgy of some sort, or mass or something. And I think it's like 7 times in a 24-hour cycle. So it's like they waking up in the middle of the night. Well, they're sleepy all the time. And that's a lifestyle thing. It never varies, ever. So what's that all about? Why be sleepy all the time? Why never get any continuous sleep for your whole life? Well, for that reason, ego dormio sed cor mea vigilant. You learn how to bring consciousness into sleep, so it's not sleep anymore. What is it? Well, in Christianity it was called infused contemplation. But in Buddhism it's called formless jhana. So one way to go about that that's used in Zen, and obviously also was used in Christianity, is to re-engineer the sleepiness thing. So one facet is, you can sort of ride it into these delicious restful states. Of course, it takes a little practice, like a lot of practice. So I'm not guaranteeing that you will experience "I sleep but my heart waketh," and tomorrow morning be enlightened and live the rest of your life in the unborn. But you can take some sort of step in that direction. Now I'm sort of convincing myself that I should join you. Look what Choshin's doing. She started that. She knew this was, because she was shaking her head even before she knew that I was like convincing myself that I want to do this. Well, now you probably think I'm a wimp, right? That I can't do it. Well, prove it. It's like the army, right? Sir, could you do that? You're supposed to be able to ask your sergeant to do anything he asks you to do, et cetera, et cetera. But now I'm really convincing myself. Well, the truth is, you deserve my A game tomorrow, which may not manifest if I'm too sleep deprived. I can still function, but maybe not the A game function. Okay, so, but other things come up. It's not just explore the restful states. You may never get mental images. Well, at 3 in the morning, maybe you have mental images. The dreamscape starts to replace the landscape. And that could be, image space is never available to me. Well, maybe it'll be available at 3 this morning. So that can be a little window of opportunity. The world is solid. Well, at 3 in the morning, maybe it won't be so solid as your eyes swim. Now you might say, well, that's bullshit, because that's just, you're just tired and that's an optical illusion. But it's also a place to stand to explore visual experience. And if you do an awful lot of that, it will give you insight into the impermanent nature of see out. That's there when you're quite recovered and looking quite normally at the world. You still have this knowledge of flow within that experience. So a whole lot of interesting things can happen as the result of the Yaza. So there are reasons to do it. There is also, of course, it can sometimes be uncomfortable. Physically, there's this icky, sticky, creepy, crawly, sort of yucky on your face, right? Coagulated yucky, and a sort of excruciating yawniness that just sits in your chest hour after hour after hour. And then there could be all sorts of emotions that come up because we're in a little non-compos mentis. I mean, it is the classic way to break people down, right? With brainwashing and so forth. So now I'm giving the...
You're really selling it now.
What kind of sales pitch is this? Who wants to buy this product? However, people that are committed to this practice know that there is such a thing, there is a thing called working through stuff. And the same process that breaks people down also can break people up, if you follow the distinction. To be broken down is a disempowering experience of abuse. To be broken up is an empowering experience of abuse. You're broken down, it means you're like shattered glass. Broken up, you're you're like a spray of pure steam that now joins the flow of nature forever. So anyway, so I didn't intend to talk about Yaza, but let me just give those of you that have never done it, first timers, going to give you a reality check. How many people in this room have done an all-night sit? How many people in this room have done it again? Okay, so you can see this is not like, oh my God, no one could do this kind of shit kind of thing, right? So there you go. That's my Yaza rap extemporized.